Hello and thank you for joining us on France 24. It's time for us to cast our collective eye on Africa. First up, the headlines. Rwandan-backed AFC M23 rebels have taken control of the key city of Uvira. The renewed fighting in the east of the Democratic Republic of Congo forces thousands to flee, prompting fears of a possible regional spillover. This comes despite the signing of the Washington peace agreement between Kigali and Kinshasa. The UK announces new sanctions on the senior commanders of Sudanese paramilitary Rapid Support Forces for suspected heinous violence reported in the Darfur region. This as several humanitarian programs announce significant resource shortages due to funding cuts. And the 7th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi comes to an end with a call from Kenyan President William Ruto for green, inclusive economic transformation at a time when experts warn that the climate crisis is a global emergency. Fighting and insecurity continues in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo as diplomatic anger rises over the latest offensive by Rwanda-backed M23 rebels. According to regional officials in the South Kivu province, more than 400 civilians have been killed since the rebel group escalated its offensive in the province and entered the strategic city of Uvira. A peace deal brokered by the US last week was supposed to end Rwanda's involvement in the conflict. However, it has had little effect on the ground. Our correspondent Emmett Livingston in Kinshasa has more.
In South Kivu, in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, the situation remains extremely precarious. M23 rebels, who are backed by Rwanda, seized control of the strategic town of Uvira on Wednesday after a week of intense combat. The death toll is uncertain, but the humanitarian impact has been severe. In the town of Baraka, about 90 kilometres south of Uvira, Doctors Without Borders said on Friday that it had to stop activities due to ongoing insecurity in the area. Congo blames Rwanda for violating the US-brokered Washington Accords, a peace deal meant to lead to the end of Rwandan troops in eastern Congo. Rwanda, in turn, says that Congolese forces carry out indiscriminate attacks. This week, Congolese leaders have been stepping up demands for international sanctions on Rwanda for violating its commitments in the peace deal. Diplomatic frustration with Rwanda is starting to become more apparent. Many countries since the beginning of the M23 crisis have been cautious about naming Rwanda's role. But at a UN Security Council debate on Friday, the US ambassador stated clearly that Rwanda had participated in the recent M23 offensive. He added that Rwanda is, and I quote, leading the region towards increased instability and war.
The situation in the east and in Uvira has forced thousands of Congolese to flee across the border to Burundi. Local officials reported an influx of some 30,000 refugees in 1 week, a surge which overwhelmed both the Burundian authorities and aid workers. Laurent Berstecher has the details.
They fled their home to escape the violence and walked for several days to arrive at this makeshift camp. Thousands of Congolese refugees continued to pour into neighboring Burundi after the Rwanda-backed M23 launched a large-scale assault on the border city of Uvira. Exhausted by their journey, many were still haunted by the hardships of the past week.
I fled the fighting and left everything behind. Even my children are missing. All of my neighbors were killed by bombs. All the houses are burned. Here, food is a problem, water is a problem. We sleep without even eating.
Earlier this week, Burundi said it was closing its border with the DRC as the M23 consolidated its hold on Uvira. But the country hasn't been able to contain the influx of refugees and says it's registered over 20,000 arrivals in the past week, with many more yet to be processed. Overwhelmed by these numbers, local authorities are calling on international donors and aid organizations to help alleviate the burden.
Currently, only the World Food Programme is present. No other organization has stepped in. We appreciate the efforts of health groups and individuals who provide food for children and refugees. We urge all charitable people to assist these Congolese refugees.
In the meantime, displaced families continue to pile up in overcrowded camps without access to food, running water, or basic sanitation facilities.
The UK has announced it will impose sanctions on the senior commanders of Sudanese paramilitary rapid support forces for suspected heinous violence reported in the Darfur region. This comes amid significant resource shortages due to funding cuts announced by several humanitarian organizations such as the UN World Food Programme. And to talk about the humanitarian situation further, I am joined by Koman Nooraldin Saeed, member of the organization Emergency Response Rooms South Kordofan chapter. Emergency Response Rooms is a Sudanese volunteer network initiative aimed at helping the urgent humanitarian needs of local communities affected by the conflict. Thank you for joining us on the program, Koman. First question, how do you provide humanitarian aid in a war zone?
Thank you for having me here. Yeah, it's absolutely a very good question. And it's very difficult really during this, crisis in Sudan, to work, but also as Sudanese emergency response rooms, we have established what's so-called Sudan Emergency Response Room, where, and also established the LCC, the Localization Coordination Council. Through this, as young volunteers across all Sudan, we come together in one coordination unit in order to support civilians and people across Sudan by providing them, with the aid. And what we do is we establish the, community kitchens, and through this community kitchen, actually, we provide meals to people, and we help them in order to also relocate themselves into a safe place. It's very dangerous. We have lost more than 150 of our volunteers since the start of the war. This is what exactly we're doing, and we know how difficult it is. But this is what exactly a duty for us to actually help our people during this very difficult time.
And the United Nations World Food Programme announced that food rations to communities in Sudan will be reduced from January onwards due to funding shortages. What does this mean for your organization and for the people you are helping?
I mean, this means a lot of things. I mean, with the US cutting 70% of its funds was absolutely problem for us, because many people actually they paid the price of this. Many people in Sudan actually they died out of hunger. And we are lacking, budgets. And now with this, it means that more pressure on civilians, more pressure on people. As Sudanese people, we feel that we are forgotten people. And the international community is not really focusing on us. With the little resources that actually being given to Sudanese people, to cut also this, it's absolutely very, very tragic. And this is going to cause a lot of problem for Sudanese. I mean, with the small resources that we are having now, and really we're struggling a lot in order to provide and educate meals for people across Sudan. And as we are seeing, a lot of thousands of people actually now they're IDBs, and they're actually they need the services that we're doing and giving to them. So that means a lot of suffering. That means more suffering to Sudanese people, and unfortunately, a lot of people are going to pay the price of these kind of decisions.
And we've heard reports that fighting has been intensifying in the Kordofan region recently. What can you tell us about what's happening on the ground?
I mean, as everybody knows that we in Sudan, we've been in war since very long ago, because I'm saying everybody because the conflict in Sudan has actually been for a very long time. We've been in war since 1955 until now. And now, the conflict zone is in North Kordofan, South Kordofan, and West Kordofan. And with these actually conflicts and this military operation that's ongoing, we were seeing thousands of people actually are fleeing, these villages and the cities in order to relocate themselves in the safe places. I mean, with the help of our volunteers across Kordofan region. We're seeing, disasters. We're seeing, suffering. We're seeing a lot of people actually they die out of the consequences of this war, and it is very, it's a very tragic, and what we're doing is we're trying to by somehow helping people by providing more care kitchens and then more aid into them, but it's absolutely very difficult with these military operations. Yeah, it's very difficult, and we hope that from this platform that people can actually look into what's happening in Sudan and try to help Sudanese people. But it's very difficult, yeah.
And Koman, I just have one quick question, if you can be brief. The UK has announced that it's going to slap sanctions on RSF senior command. The EU has done the same. Have they had any effect?
I think what the UK is doing and what the international community is doing, actually, it has really no effect on the ground, and I think we need more very serious pressure on all warring parties in order to put an end into this. What we're hearing is just something that this country or the other country, they did this and they did that, but what we are seeing on the ground is nothing, that the war is still going on. I mean, it's not about just putting sanctions on warring parties, but it's about a very serious effort of putting an end into this war, and which is supposed to be started right now.
Thank you, Koman. That's unfortunately all the time we have for Koman Noor-el-Din Saeed, member of the organization Emergency Response Room's South Kordofan chapter. The 7th session of the United Nations Environment Assembly came to an end on Friday with a call from Kenyan President William Ruto for green, inclusive economic transformation. Delegates from over 170 countries had gathered in the Kenyan capital, Nairobi, for 4 days to discuss and deliver so-called real-world solutions to real-world problems made by the worsening climate crisis. The Kenyan president stressed that Africa, one of the world's least polluting continents, was already bearing the brunt of the crisis, and that economic growth had to go hand in hand with green initiatives.
For Africa, climate change is not an abstract debate. It is a daily experience across our continent, from failed harvests to destructive floods, from intensifying storms to conflict worsened by resource scarcity. Africans are paying the price for a crisis they did not create. We can decouple growth from emissions and pollution, creating new jobs, industries, and markets. But this transformation must be fair, accessible, and also affordable.
And finally, artists in Nigeria are using the city as their living, breathing canvas. The first ever street art festival has opened in Lagos, promising to turn the megacity into a living open-air gallery, according to the organizers. It's adding color to the concrete jungle that's home to 20 million Nigerians. This year's theme is Legendary Lagos, City of Dreams, encouraging people and artists to look beyond the city's crime and poverty and instead dig deeper to show the city's resilience. Let's take a listen to some of the artists.
I know I've painted in public spaces before, but the energy in Lagos is different, like a whole lot of cars, a whole lot of traffic, a whole lot of comments from people passing by, nice work. So like, you're just feeding off the energy and just doing what you're doing, which I actually find very interesting and enjoyable at the same time.
A lot of people might not have the opportunity going for an exhibition, but having street art, it promotes people, it allows people to enjoy and feel the beauty of art.
That's all from us for the moment. Stay tuned to France 24. We'll be right back with more news.
Since the terrorist attacks in Israel on October 7th, 2023, applications for gun permits have soared, especially amongst women.
I got familiar with all the firearms world back in the army, and I just fell in love.
When I carry a gun, I feel that I add more power to the Jewish nation and to the women.
My goal is that every woman in Israel that wants to be able to protect herself will have the right to do so.
A radical shift and a social challenge supported by a new law. Israeli society is divided more than ever.
What weapons on the streets do is segregate society between the people who are supposed to feel threatened by these and people who are supposed to feel safe by these.
Watch Israel, Sisters in Arms, on France 24.